Hi, my name is Marc Belaiche. I'm president of TorontoJobs.ca. I wanted to share with you a little bit of the history and story behind the book Tales from the Recruiter that I wrote previously. So this is a copy of the book here, Tales from the Recruiter. So I get asked, these are some of the questions that people ask me about the book, and I just wanted to share with you and talk to you a little bit about kind of what the book is and the history and so on. So first of all, why did I write the book? It really was something that I always wanted to do over the years. I thought about writing a book would be good from a marketing perspective. It'd be good from a communication perspective, a little bit of history of who I am and what I do and what recruiters do. I found that over the years that people didn't really know what recruiters did, and I certainly didn't know what recruiters did before I got into the recruiting industry. So I thought it would be good to share a little bit about what a day in the life is of a recruiter, how they can help people search for jobs, and so on. So what's it about? What's the book about? It's about a story with a guy called Chris the Recruiter, who you'd have to read the book at the end to find out who Chris the Recruiter is. But at the end of it, or at the end of the day, Chris the Recruiter is meeting with 3 people each week and goes over a certain topic. So the topic of each chapter is based upon some of the questions that I've received over the years when I've been at an event, or I speak at a number of conferences and job search clubs and so on and so forth. So some of the people who have asked me questions, I have found that similar questions, similar times from similar groups. So I created the different chapters from those groups. So, for example, one of the questions that I might get is, how can I network if I don't know anyone? So that's a common question that people ask me. Another question that people ask me sometimes are, how do I find a job if I don't know anyone? So this was the basis of the different chapters that I kind of created through the course of the book. So a recruiter who doesn't interview, are there recruiters who don't interview, and should I go to job fairs? So these are the questions that I created to come up with the book for the chapters. So who are the characters? Well, there's 4 characters in the book. There's one is Chris the Recruiter, who I mentioned. There's somebody named Anne, who is somebody who's an accountant who's kind of happy with their position, but just kind of wants to see what else is out there. And then there's Carlos, who's in IT, and he's really interested in finding another opportunity and kind of going from there. And then there's Raj, who I call, who's from India, who's new to Canada, doesn't really know anybody, and needs some advice on job search. So those are the 4 characters in the book. When was it written? I wrote it. It took me about 3 years to write it. There was one release a few years ago, and then I've just sent out a second release in the last year or so. Why the name Tales of the Recruiter? I get that frequently as well. There was a movie years ago that was called Tales from the Crypt. And I always remember that, and it was just kind of stories, and I thought, what, Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Recruiter. So that's the history of that. And when I did the draft, when I wrote it, it took me a long time. The chapters were done over and over and over again. When I thought I finally had a good draft, I actually sent it out to 10 people. Some of them were job seekers, some of them were some of them were job seekers, some of them were coaches, some of them were other recruiters, some of them were just people that were looking for a job, just to get their feedback. And then after I got all that feedback, then I talked about all the different areas, and I upgraded certain areas, and I made things more clear, and I wanted to make it so it's universal, that it could be used for anybody. So through the course of the years of the book, I've had people from all over the place read it. It's available through Amazon, through Kobo as well, and people have shared my feedback with me, and at the website talesfromtherecruiter.ca, I put some of those testimonials on there as well. So those are the kind of feedback and the process that goes into writing a book. I never had any idea that a book would take as long as it did to write and to publish. It is a lot of work. So when I think of like really, really big books, and I think, wow, that's a lot of work. I was working and trying to do chapters on the weekend, so maybe it was a little bit more challenging for someone like me, because I wasn't doing it full time. But And then eventually I got an editor as well who helped me, just kind of put it into, a good process as well. And she did a great job in doing that. So I just, kind of wanted to thank her as well. And her name is Shannon Briscoe as well. And it's in here in the book here as well. So you can see a little bit about it. But anyways, again, this is the book. If you missed the beginning part, Tales from the Recruiter. The website is talesfromtherecruiter.ca, and you can find out a little bit more about the book there. So that's where you can get it. You can also get it non-pandemic time, but it's also available at the Toronto and Mississauga libraries for free if you can sign it out there when the libraries are open. And the book's really good in general for a number of different people. Initially, I wrote it more for the job seeker, but when I gave it to a number of people to review the draft, a couple of people said, I didn't know if this was for people looking for a job or if this was a recruiter, if somebody was looking for a job in a recruiting role. So it actually pivoted my thinking on it, and I realized that somebody who's thinking about getting into recruiting or the recruiting industry might look at the book and might be interested in it as well. So it's really good for anybody looking for a new position. It could be a student, could be somebody with a lot of experience. It could be a new graduate. It could be somebody who's looking to move to Canada or just somebody who's new to Canada. But on the HR or recruiting side, it could be somebody in HR whose role includes some work in the recruiting to find staff for their current employer, or somebody who's looking to work in a staffing company, or anybody who's generally thinking about getting into the recruiting industry or has a desire to be in the recruiting world. So that's a little bit of a nutshell summary of what the book is all about and where you can get it. There's how many chapters on there? There's about 19 chapters. 19 chapters with an epilogue. So, what do I put in my cover letter and thank you letter? Is there a perfect job? And I walk through the steps that I believe people should follow to find that perfect job. And I've talked about that in other seminars and videos as well in terms of how to find that perfect job. And I kind of outline it in the book as well. So hopefully you can benefit from it. And what I'll do right now is if you're watching this video, just send me an email or connect with me on LinkedIn, say that you saw this video and that you're interested in the book. And first 2 or 3 people that email me, I will be happy to mail a book in Canada. So if you're in Canada, I'll mail it to you at no cost to you, free. So my email address is marc dot, and then my last name is B like Bob, ELAICHE at TorontoJobs.ca. So first name dot last name at TorontoJobs.ca. Again, my name is Marc Belaiche. I'm president of TorontoJobs.ca. I want to thank you for watching. Feel free to check out our website where you can post your resume and search and apply to positions. And you can follow us on all our social media platforms. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for watching. Have a great day and stay safe.